All right, we are live for a Friday day edition of the Mike and Mario Show. Excited to be back. Looking forward to connecting and just talking about all the craziness going on. And of course, Merry Christmas to everyone tuning in. And let's keep it moving. But Mario, how you doing, my friend?
Yeah, it is good night here, so it's dark already. Yeah, so that's okay. Don't worry. No, I'm doing well. Looking forward to tomorrow. We're gonna see some friends for Christmas,
Yeah,
and
that's good.
yeah, so I think they try to scare people, and they
Mhm,
have in the last
mhm.
week or 10 days or so. But they weren't able to cancel Christmas. I think they wanted badly to do so
Yeah,
here in the UK. But
yeah.
not in the UK, actually, in England, because I feel fortunate with being in England because people think, well, there are other countries within the UK, other nations, as they call
Mhm.
Scotland and Wales. Wales, for example, they have a first minister called Drakeford, and he's locked everything down.
Really?
So yeah, for Christmas. So they call him Kim Jong Drakeford now. And also in Scotland, things are different. So England is relatively free for now, even though I think they might want to impose more restrictions
Mhm.
after Christmas, because I think if they did something to Christmas in England, there would have been maybe riots because people are getting angry.
Yeah.
I, I was listening. We listened to a radio program. They're mainstream, but they're quite alternative as well,
Mhm.
and they are sense. Can I say they have to be careful what they say, of course, because it's like they're part of the uh, communications system.
Right.
Like they have a license. But my wife was listening to the two guys on outside the radio. They're doing like an Apple talk,
Mhm.
and you wouldn't hear what they said on the official radio. They were like swearing and stuff and saying this is ridiculous. So even those people in the mainstream are starting to say this is enough.
Mhm.
What about in the US? You told me there's a lot of flights being canceled. And in the US, people move around a lot. Let's say you finish university and then you go work somewhere else, but your family lives all across the nation, and you
Yeah.
travel for Thanksgiving and Christmas. So this is going to ruin many people's Christmas.
Oh,
But
it already has. And that's a part of the plan, man. So speaking of cancellation of flights, I just saw this not long ago. And so just as of 8 a.m., this is somebody looks like in the media talking about how U.S. airlines have canceled 450 flights today, citing staffing shortages caused by the variant. And then it gives
mm,
out some total number of flights that were canceled. And once again, how much more of this fear mongering can they drum down our throat? Because as I mentioned last week when we were talking about the whole variant, it was mild and calm, and even out of South Africa where it allegedly started, it's mild. It doesn't have any severities as compared to
well,
Delta, yada yada.
actually, I just interrupt you a second. It actually
Mhm.
started, remember, in Botswana. It
Botswana,
actually,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So
And actually, they haven't had a case of this thing for the last few weeks in Botswana.
right.
Do you remember George W. Bush? We went to a park in Botswana.
Yeah.
That,
It happens to have spread so rapidly around the world, and it's everywhere now and all that other good stuff. But we know what time it is. And even to the point where it has Bill Gates tweeting about, his family, friends being impacted and need to slow back on their holiday plans and all that stuff, man. But it's to be expected.
uh,
But what doesn't surprise me, but yet does, happens to be the former administration. And something that really concerns me is when this current administration now is giving credit to or placating into the former administration, because before they were enemies. Now they're saying, Jen Psaki put out a tweet basically re-showing the interview with Candace Owens the other day about how President Trump, he said if the vaccines are effective and safe and stuff like that, and so go get boosted this holiday season or something like that. And so it's just more of the good guy, bad guy, but they all on the same team with the same agenda type of
yeah.
thing.
we're having problems here because we at Christmas people, if they want to go back home, if their parents live somewhere else, it's mostly train. We do it through the trains because
Mhm.
it's not such a big country. You don't fly. But a lot of the train services have been canceled as well.
Yeah.
A lot of the people that work in the health service, NHS.
Mhm.
I saw a tweet yesterday from someone in the NHS saying that they are allowed now to take 28 days sick with no excuse.
Mhm.
So, and I think they're pushing people to do these tests,
Yeah.
which come up really false positives.
Mhm.
You feel perfectly fine, and then you
Yeah.
go test, it says you're positive, and then you go and isolate. What I mean, why isolate if you're feeling well?
Right.
I
Right.
mean,
Because
eh,
it's that whole asymptomatic, thing to
yeah,
where if there's any idea of having been exposed to anybody, you need to take some time off, type of thing. So, like right
yeah.
now, as I mentioned, the sports world here in the U.S. is very chaotic, and so on Christmas we have basketball games all day, but majority of the teams they have players that are in the whole protocol process. So the product they're going to be putting out tomorrow is not going to be ideal because the star players are all pretty much all out in a sense. So it's a bunch of chaos, man. But to be expected. But let's jump into real quick. Let's jump into the former administration, President Trump. I want to just throw that up here. So I want to put his. Let me see. I'm gonna show this on the screen real quick, see if you guys can hear it. But it looks like, according to his own admissions, that he also participated in the third jab, of which we haven't really seen that yet. But I'll play this. Did you happen to see this, Mario?
N- Not this one. I haven't.
Yes, I
Yeah.
got it too. Okay,
But,
so
Here's a
both the
question.
president and I are vaxxed, and did you get the booster? Yes, I got it too. Okay, so
the
So
thing
there's
is,
a short pause there.
the thing is that if these things are so, oh, Mike.
Hit the wrong button.
All right, we're back.
Yeah, I hit the wrong button.
The thing with these medical procedures, I think in the beginning, Fauci said, "Oh, it's going to be you take it, and you're never going to get the thing again."
Right.
And now it seems every 3 months you need one. And
Mhm.
if the first two didn't work, and I like the way they call it a booster, but
Mhm.
it's just a third.
Right.
Why would the third work if the first two don't? And
Right.
their excuse is that, well, if you do get it, it's going to be milder. But even if I'm not medically procedured,
Mhm.
if I get it, I have a over 99% chance of recovering. And once you get it, I listened to Professor Dr. McCullough, Peter
Mhm.
McCullough.
Mhm.
He had a long chat with Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
My wife was actually listening to it, and he said it's impossible, or at least he's asked the CDC, no, you can't get it again. That's
Mhm.
what he said. So once you get it, that's it. You never get it again, and it's just crazy. The thing about the previous administration, we were talking before we came on air.
Yeah.
They did a lot of things that were also in my book, not right
Mhm.
fiscally. For example, people are complaining about the inflation now, but what we're getting is the consequence of the inflation we had prior to 2021. Because
Mhm.
if you look at the M2, the Fed's QE, that was in 2020. Who was
Yeah.
president in 2020? And even in people might say, "Oh, we had the greatest economy ever." I don't think we did, because the budget deficit to GDP in 2019
Mhm.
was about 5%. If you have a great economy, you should be running a balanced budget. And I'll probably get a lot of criticism here
I mean,
because
but you,
I'm
but you
criticizing.
shouldn't, just because all the presidents have played into the same game, because the system
Yeah,
can't move forward unless you continue to
yeah,
borrow more. So here's the M2 right here. And so the entire the lockdown situation, stopping the entire global economy, and then trying to restart it again took trillions of dollars to do. So it started under his watch. So it's not like it's a surprise at all to anybody. But I think my biggest problem is the people who are out here saying that there's a greater agenda. And so there's good guys still, there's bad guys, the white hats, and Trump has to do all these things. He has to say all these things to play a part of this script, because he has to expose all the people that's embedded in the system that's evil. I mean, come on now.
I think the system itself is it's not good. Unfortunately, it's not gonna. I just don't see. I think I see both sides of the aisle. They're on the same. They're playing for the same like owner, but they're different teams.
Right.
But in the end of the day, they're playing the same game, so to speak.
Right. Now, I'm gonna play another little Trump. Let me find this video. I'm gonna play another little Trump. Let me see if I can find this. Where we at? Stop sharing this. Share. Let me grab a video. So I'm gonna play this little snippet here.
Big pharma, which is a huge topic on the minds of mothers, especially. You're seeing what's happening at these school board meetings. Where do you stand on these vaccine mandates? And obviously, I know that you are pro-vaccine. Obviously, you did everything you could to get this vaccine out. I know where you stand on the vaccine.
It was one of the greatest achievements. We did it in less than 9 months.
To be able to do that. But now it's taken a twist, right? It's gotten, now we went from this is a good thing and people should have this option to military men, you're going to have to resign because you're not getting this vaccine. Where do you stand on that?
Well, I stand on, forget about the mandates, that people have to have their freedom, but at the same time, the vaccine is one of the greatest achievements of mankind. We would have had in 1917, remember the Spanish flu, killed perhaps 100 million people. Actually, it ended the First World War because the soldiers were so, a lot of people don't know that. The soldiers got so sick. It was a terrible thing. There were no vaccines. There was no anything. I came up with a vaccine, with 3 vaccines. All are very, very good.
All right, I'm stop right there.
Well, I think he's rewriting history, the history of World War I. He's saying the Spanish flu stopped the war. I think the Spanish flu started after the war.
So he's taking credit for all 3, and then I have to just show this real quick. FDA advises states to pause on the J&J because of clots and stuff like that. So, would he take ownership of that as well, or are he gonna leave it off the table? So, I mean,
what about
I know
all the athletes in Europe like collapsing or dying?
Right.
I mean, what's that all about? Is this never used to happen.
Right. So I know he's playing his part in this, but it bothers me that people have confidence and trust in a man that's a part of the agenda to dial down, dumb down, and just basically distract everybody with this false hope. Like it's not. I'm not like a doom and gloom overall type of guy, but it's one thing to have confidence and trust in a man that has not proven or really hasn't given the world anything really to hang their hat upon as far as coming in and saving the day.
Yeah, in my book, you have to look after yourself, have confidence and faith in yourself, your family, and not wait for a man on a white horse to save the day. And I think too many people, they're still like they're still like waiting for something to happen. I mean, nothing's going to happen unless you act.
Right.
But politicians, they're there not to help you. They're there to help themselves. Very few politicians actually do something for the public good. Right. Yes, maybe Trump talks a better talk, is more conservative, but his actions are far from being that. Right. I mean, last year, if he really wanted to fight the globalists, I would have sacked Fauci. I would have done, because if you remember the WHO, he didn't leave the WHO. He said he would leave the WHO after he left, after the elections. So he didn't actually cut them off, but the headline sounded like he's saying, oh, we're going to leave the WHO, and he didn't. Yeah. So he should have approached Robert Kennedy Jr. because I think he's got the right idea, but he didn't.
Right, but that's the thing. Like in my opinion, he couldn't because he
Why?
wouldn't have been able. I mean, he's the president, but yet once again, like he's also taking orders. Like his whole advisory team around him are all former bankers as well as pharmaceutical reps and lobbyists, and so the whole team set up around himself. Even the military people. He after the fact he started clowning all the military personnel, saying that they're incompetent, but you didn't do nothing about it when you're in office, though. So he was going along with things.
I think it's really hard because it's like in the UK they have what's called the civil service. You guys have it too. It's like the deep state. You can't sack them. It's really hard, and they make the decisions because you'd think because Trump is being the president is like being the CEO. You should be able to fire anyone you want.
Right.
If you're running a business, the buck stops with you. But it does. Either he was compromised and people control him or whatever.
Right. Here's a couple of here's a thought here. It says, I want to know why no one is calling for treason. Yeah, that word is not something that's really I hear much in the political realm these days. I haven't heard that word in quite some time, except for I think it was Lindsey Graham, the senator, a while back before Trump or when Trump first came in office, talked about treason and things like that and tribunal and all types of stuff like that. But that didn't turn out to be about much, I don't think. But another subject matter that has my concern is this here. The Supreme Court. It looks like they decided to basically, have this brought before them mighty quickly. And so never before have I really, have they brought a subject matter, been willing to take on a subject matter such as this in such a timely fashion. So it looks like by January 7th, they're going to hear some oral arguments as to this whole mandate side of things. And it's my suspicion that somehow, some way, it's going to play in the favor of this current administration and the big pharma ruling rather than the people.
Yeah, I noticed when that reporter asked Trump about the mandates, he didn't actually say, "Oh no, people should be free to decide." But he didn't say, "I'm totally against the mandates." He said, "Oh no, but the vaccines are great." It's almost like he's pushing people to do it.
Right.
And
definitely not discouraging them, because everything the best thing for humanity, all three of them are good according to him. So yeah, this Miles.
I was thinking. Oh, go ahead.
Let's
answer Miles' question.
Okay, Miles says March is a special time for pagans, a month of madness, good time for a grid down and bail in reset. So, Mr. Miles, anything is possible. So I think that plays out in a little video I did earlier this week about the possibility of bank bail-ins, and I'll just jump, to that article where I grabbed those ideas from. And this is the Mike Yeadon timetable to tyranny. And according to all these different points here, majority of them are on point. Some of them are ahead of their time, but yet I think phase 6, the financial side of things and the actual activation of the Great Reset is something he's saying is going to come in 2022 with the digital wallet situation and dematerializing money, which basically probably means the CBDC rollout. So what are your thoughts on that, Marlo? Is that something that we can expect this upcoming year, you think?
I think they will try to do that. That's their goal, but I'm not sure they will succeed.
Yeah.
I personally think the reset, and it's not the Great Reset, but the reset of the whole financial monetary system will be done by the public through the markets. And I don't know how long that will take. It could take a while, but it could kick off soon. That's the way I see it, and that would be a good thing.
Now watch this. The public through the markets. So what do you mean by that? People withdrawing funds, getting out of the market? Or
people, because I was speaking to Rafi Farber the other day, and he said, if the general public decide to move their money, it will overwhelm the central banks, even with gold, because even though the central banks and the sovereign nations own about 17% of all the gold ever mined, can you imagine? They will lose control if people suddenly wake up, and we don't see prices subsiding next year. We see prices continue to rise. People are gonna wake up and say, "I need to start buying things because they're gonna get more expensive," and the whole psychology of inflation, they'll lose control of the inflationary expectations, as they call it. So
Right.
I think that would be good because then it would probably because the people in power right now,
Mhm.
uh, they have the control of the fiat currency,
Yeah.
and they can still finance their activities, all their authoritarian rules and regulations. But look at what's happening in Turkey and
Mhm.
Lebanon. Uh, Erdogan is probably going to have a tough time staying in power, even though what he did the other day,
Mhm.
his plan for the Turkish lira is kind of giving
Brought
him
it
a
down a
bit
little bit.
more time because
Yeah.
the lira has actually rallied quite strongly, but I'm not sure that will work.
Yeah, I just saw a tweet mentioning about as of right now, due to Erdogan trying to stabilize the tanking lira, they're out of their foreign reserves. And so it's like now that they're basically get rid of all their foreign reserves, trying to save their own currency, then what will be the next strategy to kind of keep things from completely going belly up? And so now, along with that, they're coming out with some new cryptocurrency legislation now, at the
Yeah,
same time that they're done with their foreign reserves or whatever. So it's going to be a mess no matter what, man. And I saw another article about how people are being forced to due to the inflation, cost of living, and whatnot going up. They're actually getting rid of it said something about their grandparents' gold. So they're basically having to sell some of their
yeah.
metals to supply the daily needs over
Mm.
there. So very
You
shocking.
know, the previous president said, "Oh, this is the three greatest things ever to
Mhm.
happen to humanity." The
Yeah.
things, but I remember when I was in the States living at university in
Mhm.
the early mid '80s. A lot of the adverts on TV were for junk food.
Mhm.
McDonald's, Wendy's, and then when I started going to the States for business in the
Mhm.
'90s, I noticed that all the adverts were for prescription drugs, pharmaceuticals,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
stuff. So I would say one of the best things that people can do uh, today is basically get rid of their television
Mhm.
and also stop eating junk.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I don't sometimes like a McDonald's, but you have to try to avoid junk food. Can you imagine if people stop eating junk food and stop watching television, how the world would change?
Right.
I,
Is
I think that would be much better than having a booster every 3 months.
Yeah, I would agree. Did you did you send me that about the Amish?
Oh
Somebody
yeah,
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
trying to
that
find it real
meme.
quick. Well, that was
Yeah,
funny though.
that
It
was
said,
good.
how come, this whole health situation hasn't affected the Amish? And they said, and because we don't have TV.
Yeah.
Here's Chris. Appreciate you, man. Says, at what point will the market force the Fed's hands to raise rates much, much higher? Merry Christmas to you both. Appreciate you, my man. Merry Christmas to you as well.
Thank you, Chris. Merry
Much, much higher. Yeah, I don't see them trying to do the whole Volcker, raising it well beyond the rate
Mm.
of inflation to
Oh,
try
that
to slow things down because it's going to bring everything
I
down. So,
I actually think the market doesn't want higher rates
mhm,
because it will bring it all down. It will bring down the bond market. It will bring down the stock market. It
mhm.
will bring down real estate. It will implode everything. Um, you send me something from Doug. Is it Doug Cass?
Yeah, I'm putting it on the screen right
His
now.
forecasts or predictions for next year. He
Yeah.
thinks the Fed is going to be very hawkish. That Powell is going to become like a Volcker,
Mhm.
but I think it's very difficult for Powell to become like Volcker. He might
Yeah.
raise rates twice, but as this guy says, it's not going to stop the inflation, and
Right.
it's not going to stop gold. So yes, I don't change my view that the Fed and all other major central banks around the world, they're
Mhm.
between a rock and a hard place. They can't really stop inflating.
Right. I know one thing I found to be interesting about this whole slugflation, sluggish growth and sustained inflation. And he was saying that part of his prediction was that by February-ish of this year would be around 8% or so. And it's going to
Mm,
be hard to contain. It's going to be hard to control that narrative of they are doing the best they can to get things under
yeah,
control and things blow up. And Yellen
yeah.
comes in, tells the
a-
Fed to do whatever
a-
you got to do. And they're going
And
to say
the
the
other
hell will
thing,
prop up the markets. Go ahead.
sorry, the
No,
other
no, go
thing
ahead.
is you're talking about like all the cancellations, flights,
Uh-huh.
and here as well. It's disrupting people's lives, and
Yeah.
he's talking about that will have an impact going forward on the supply chain and everything. And he's talking about the service sector,
Yeah.
prices rising there because you're going to have people calling in sick and
Mhm.
everything. You won't have enough staff for restaurants and other things, hotels or resorts
Yeah.
or airline companies. I think it's going to be, unfortunately, 2022 is not going to be. We're not going to turn the corner.
Right.
It's going to probably get worse.
Right. And speaking
Um,
of which, here's a couple headlines just to show how bad, according to the mainstream narrative, how things were for a lot of people. But it says 20% of Americans couldn't pay their energy bill in the last year. How to keep costs down, and energy, especially what's happening in Europe. I imagine it was a lot worse in Europe because of the
oh
energy
yeah,
issues over there. So I think those energy issues that's happening in Europe, they're going to be brought here. And what really amazes me is how um, they are shutting down nuclear plants at the same time they're having sky high energy prices along the way. So here's something about blackouts. So more blackouts, they're saying, heading to Europe as energy prices soar. So I can see something like that making its way over here because Biden already shut down the pipelines and
yeah.
all the other stuff they're
Well,
doing to
the
cripple our
German
economy.
the new German government is shutting down 2 nuclear power plants in the next week.
Yeah.
3, and in 2011, Merkel decided to basically dismantle the nuclear energy because of
Uh-huh.
Fukushima, and now they're going ahead. And the other thing, it doesn't only affect consumers and
Mhm.
people's utility bills, it's going to affect industry because industry needs energy as well to manufacture things, to make things.
Yeah.
Uh, so here in the UK, haven't really noticed yet the bills going
Mhm.
up because they still have a cap up until April, the utility companies,
Yeah.
the energy suppliers. But I think next year after April, people are going to be shocked. But we have seen like dozens of energy suppliers go bust because uh, natural gas prices have gone up through the roof, and and they can't charge the customers above a certain price, so they're all going out of business.
Yeah.
And a lot of consumers, they're called orphans. Uh, their bills and their providers, uh, their energy providing has had to be taken over by the companies that have survived. But we're going to bear the cost of that as well, of the failures of the energy suppliers in the last 6 months.
Yeah, and so I see, let me see, LBP mentions, does rain affect water futures prices?
Oh yeah, I spoke about that today. Well, in California, yes, because it's a California futures contract.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think Zero Hedge had the article that
Yeah,
there's about 130 groups trying to basically ask the CFTC to abolish this futures contract, and I think
right.
they're right because you can't let the bankers uh,
Control the damn
commodify
water.
control water.
Yeah,
They're already controlling everything else. You don't want them controlling water. It's going
right,
to be even worse. You're not going to own anything. You're going to be hungry and thirsty, and you're going to be happy.
right. And that's the thing, the fact they're taking it to the very essence of life, which is water, like,
Mm, yeah,
commoditizing water to be able
but
to profit
yeah,
off of it while minimizing
yeah,
the average Joe and make it
yeah,
unaffordable at some point down the
yeah.
line.
This futures contract is on the CME. It's been around for a year. I hadn't seen it actually, but yeah, I
Yeah,
think it's worrying because with the futures market, the bankers have almost endless supply of cash or reserves from the Fed, and they can manipulate those markets left, right, and center,
Right.
just like
Right.
they've been doing with other markets.
Right. I mean, gold and silver especially is I guess the biggest proponent, or the biggest, biggest commodities, or money turned to commodities and traded, and then of course just use to rig the price, and then of course they try and do that to the crypto digital asset space as well.
Yeah.
So creating financial products off of real world items is what ultimately works out best for them and not us, the people. So
it's just a way of manipulating that market, I think. You probably know about that Wikipedia document from 1974 that the U.S. Treasury and the State Department were in communication with London and the bullion dealers in London about, because on January 1st, 75, gold became legal again in the U.S. And in the communications between the two countries, they said the new futures contract on gold should help deter Americans from owning real physical gold. They will just trade the futures. It's not going to be a real physical market. So it's out there for people to see.
Yeah. So speaking of, so we about 30 minutes in or so. So if you want, Mario, let's as we mentioned, let's get some participation from the viewers. And so I want to put out, let's just go right to the providing our people opportunity to join us via live stream. So what I want to do, if you got a thought, a question, or idea, real quick and simple, I'll put this link out here. You guys can tune in and just join us on screen if you guys want. Be able to put your face out there and let us know where you're watching from, and share some thoughts and ideas or whatnot. So in the link right now, feel free to join us, and we'll get you on here, or throw some questions out there in the chat, and we'll definitely love to just share our 2 cents on it and keep it moving. But let's touch on the metals activity real quick. Let me see what's going on price wise. I know everything is closed today, but let me see here. So this is just the silver price as of so everything's closed today. So this is as of yesterday's price.
Yeah, because Christmas this year is on a Saturday. Usually on Christmas Eve, the market's open for like half day. But I saw that the U.S. decided just to close everything today because tomorrow is Saturday.
Yeah.
But I looked at the foreign exchange market was open in London, and I looked at this page that I look at, and silver didn't really trade the spot silver, but gold did trade. It went up to like 1812 this morning London time, and then at the end of the day it was still at 1808, pretty much where we closed yesterday. So yeah.
Okay, so speaking of which, we have our first. Let's get him in here. Let's add him into this drink, put him in the middle. Mr. LBP.
Oh, there he is.
How you doing, my friend?
How you guys doing? Merry Christmas.
I'm doing well, my friend. How you doing? What's going on with you, man?
Man, I got a call coming in. Can you hear that?
I can hear the call. I hear you though.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm at work, man. I busted my lip. I had to go to the ER. I broke my lip.
You busted your lip. That's not good. Would you fail? Somebody cold cocked?
No, I walked into something. And man, I went to the ER. The damn doctor. You got a COVID? He asked me 5 times if I had a vaccine. I said, man, and then he
Go ahead.
He gave like a little declaration. Like he gave me like the little spew. I'm fully vaccinated. Don't worry. I'm like, dude, I don't care about that.
Man, I would be more concerned. The fact I'm real conscientious of the whole shedding aspect. Like I've tried to dive more into that and understand that shedding stuff. But
just before I forget, I saw a story today or yesterday in the UK in the Daily Mail, because they've been saying that there's loads of people in hospital with Omicron, but now they've come out and said that 2/3 of those people, they went in for something else, maybe like you, low blood pressure, and then they tested them and they were found positive, and they're putting it down as that they went to hospital for Omicron, but it's not. So it's all like a big deception, I would say.
Yeah. They're trying their best to scare the hell out of everybody. So I'm thinking like so right now we're in, COVID-21 is the way I labeled it, because, COVID-19 was 2 years ago. And so we're entering into COVID-22. And of course, there's going to be another variant of some type, and more fear, more bad news, and more division. Those that have participated, those who haven't. It's going to be the new norm to try and create for us. So it's very sick, but it is what it is. Enjoy life around it, I guess, the best you can do. But what else going on, LBP?
I don't know. There's just it's a mass hysteria, you know.
That's what it is.
Who's believing it?
Surprisingly, a lot of people are, because Fauci was talking about, you shouldn't have people over at your house for the holidays unless they have their test. So have them show you a test or go participate or something like that. So it's like people actually go and get tested before they go see their loved ones.
Some people believe it, unfortunately, and that's what's dividing people, I think, because some people like us don't.
Right. But it is what it is. Anyway, LBP, man, I appreciate you joining us, my friend. You're always brave and courageous to come on air and let your voice be heard. So I appreciate you, man.
All right, guys. Merry Christmas to both of you. Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas. Be good. You too. Take care.
Yeah, man. LBP. Good guy. What else? Keep it moving. So as always, feel free to throw out some thoughts or questions or whatnot. We'd definitely love to chime on in it and share our 2 cents on it. What else we got here? Let me see. NFL. I see some Jerry, whatever. And speaking of which, what are your thoughts? Here, Bob Hunter. Appreciate you, my friend. Thank you for the love offering. It says, we will own nothing, be happy with it, and they will own everything and be miserable. Build back better. 666 pure evil. So what are your thoughts on the Build Back Better? Because as of now, it looks like it's been stalled. I don't think it's I think it's going to come back around, because that extra $2 trillion is needed to paper over some problems and prop things up. So it's going to create more of a desperation, because the markets will respond at some point when the stimulus, and especially when they start tapering or try to start tapering, it's going to be some problems. So I think it's going to lead to the emergency announcement of some kind, or all of a sudden Manchin's going to change his mind and it's going to get passed. I think.
I'm not too convinced about that guy, Manchin, and instead they'll have another crisis, and people, it will be an emergency, and the trillions are going to flow again. I was looking at some numbers through the U.S. debt clock. And since 2008, the national debt in the U.S. has gone up by 166%, but the GDP has gone up by only 66%. I mean, that's not healthy.
Yeah. So this debt clock, man. So I got it right here on the screen.
Yeah, the build back better. I guess it feels like it's not going ahead right now, because without the U.S., the COP26 and the Build Back Better, climate change is dead in the water. Let's hope it doesn't get implemented.
Right. I hope it doesn't. But what concerns me is the fact that Manchin has so much power as one individual to derail or appear to derail their plans of building back better. And then, of course, how the mainstream media is trying to sell it that, extra $2 trillion is not going to be inflationary. And then within that, they'll pick out one highlight of it's going to provide, tax credits for, the poor. Kids will eat. And I'm like, but what about the other stuff, the pork that's in there, the other $1 trillion? What are you going to do with that? Where does that go?
The thing is, this is totally Keynesian thinking, that we need to borrow more, put the country in a bigger debt hole to help people. I'm not against helping people, but if you don't have the money, you first have to help yourself. And what all it will do is it will create more and more rising prices, and the people that you're supposed to help, by the time they get the help will be worthless.
Yeah.
And I would say as well, Joe mentioned, he's a target now as well. So,
or he's a controlled opposition playing the tough guy role and trying to push back against the narrative so that they can create a sense of desperation as to how much we need this, because the economy is not doing it. It can help build us, whatever. And then all of a sudden his true colors come out. And then, as it says here, a scaled down version of it gets passed, which still equates to 1 trillion. So basically it's that good guy, bad guy behind the scenes. They're all on the same page. They know what's going on. They know that if they stop passing bills and stop borrowing, or not saying borrowing anymore because they can't pay it back, but stop taking out debt, then the thing comes to an end. And then neither one of them, because especially coming up this year with the primaries, 23, I think it's 23 Democratic seats are going to be available now. So they're creating a sense of desperation amongst the Democrat and Republicans for this next term, because as of now,
in the Senate, yeah,
correct. So they're creating a sense of desperation, saying that the Republicans are going to take over the House and this and that, and they're going to go back. It's going to go turn red again, and they're going to stop all the spending. And okay, then what? The economy definitely will tank. So
the thing is, I've never seen a Republican Congress or administration ever pay down the debt in the last 60 years. It's not going to change much.
Right. And at this point, again, you can't. I mean, just the system itself is dependent upon more funny currency. So that's just how things go. But anyway, let's keep it moving, man. As always, for those that are tuning in, any other brave souls want to join us face to face, feel free to do so.
Yeah,
I'll put the link out there. It'd be good to get a chance to meet some people, or throw some questions out there. We'll love to share our 2 cents on it. Anything else out there? Let's. Speaking of which, what is getting some attention right now happens to be the cryptocurrency space. Can't ignore that because it's here and it's not going anywhere. But here is current activity. So BTC got up above 50. So we'll see where this goes. But well, you probably have not been. But are you familiar with Reggie Middleton and Veritasium?
Oh yeah, I am familiar with Reggie Middleton. I used to. He used to be a lot on Max Kaiser, and he's a very clever guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not too sure about Veritasium, and some people seem to think it's like the best thing ever since sliced bread, that is going to solve all our problems. I'm not too sure about that, but I've had a look at Veritasium's price. It's been all over the place. Years ago, it was in the hundreds. Then it went to like almost zero, and now it's squeezed up again. I mean, there's so many altcoins out there. But yeah, I see that Bix Weir goes on a lot about Veritasium, and even Cliff High.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I had Veritasium once, but years ago.
Yeah, so all this refound energy behind the project happens to be because of the granting of a patent. So the U.S. patent, he's gotten a patent on basically peer-to-peer transaction, money market. So everything that's wrapped up in what is labeled as pretty much crypto, it now belongs to him. And so he's now coming out saying that a lot of people are infringing on his patent. So he's going to be knocking on a lot of doors of all the big businesses,
the DeFi, and the thing is, this would totally destroy Wall Street, because you wouldn't need banks or anything. Everyone could deal with each other,
right?
But
so I think the biggest problem is it's being ignored, and so no mainstream syndicates are touching it. And by patent law, it looks like he actually has a right to basically knock on the doors of a lot of businesses because they are infringing upon his patent. But my problem is that DeFi and the whole crypto space was sold as a permissionless open source protocol. And by him now having a say-so in all of these different processes of the cryptographic framework, you need his permission now. So
it's worse than the Federal Reserve, because at least there's like a few governors there. He's the only governor here. It's very centralized, it seems.
Right. So by all this space here needing his permission, it definitely changes the rules of the game, because the bankers, those that are trying to orchestrate this transition, I don't think they want to have to bow down to anybody in their agenda to make sure you own nothing and be happy with it through this digital transformation process. And especially, it's unfortunate. I think a lot of it has to do with skin tone, because that right there is definitely far left field. Like, they never give black people any credit for anything anyway.
Yeah. I actually think Reggie Middleton is an honorable individual.
Oh, definitely.
And
definitely.
I don't think he wants to control his patent or like invention in a bad way. He wants to let people use it for free.
Right.
But the problem is the powers that be don't like that. It's like with Nikola Tesla, who wanted free energy
Mhm.
And the oil industry didn't allow him. They bought him out or just like suppressed it.
Right. And I think that's the same with Reggie. Like he made it clear that, he doesn't want to cause any problems. He just want to be acknowledged for his creation and then of course being compensated fairly. But then his goal is to basically kind of in a sense like free humanity. He want people to be able to freely trade minus any third party counterparts, whatever, or the need for institutions. And I think that's the problem because I don't think the boys that's orchestrating this transition want that to be the case. They don't want to free humanity. They want to continue to enslave humanity. And that's why I think it's going to be hard for him to actually get this in his favor. Because if he don't play the games with the big boys will find another way again to make sure, he's not fairly compensated for his patent. So it's going to be an uphill battle for him. I wish him the best, but yeah, I don't think nobody foresaw the time where they would need permission, especially from a black guy, to participate in this new space. So, but anyway, it is what it is. Here's a question here. It says, does all governments, thinking of Canada, spending go towards or counts towards the GDP?
Oh, I'll answer that if you
Go
want.
ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, it does. If you go on Google and check how they calculate GDP, it's private expenditure, investment, exports minus imports, and government spending. So
Yeah.
if the government overspends, let's say they run a deficit of 10% and GDP grows by 5%, it's a fallacy that the economy is growing because governments don't produce anything. They take from the private sector. Yeah. So you see the G there's the government. So consumption, government, and investments plus imports minus exports. So yeah, that's why the GDP numbers are so bogus in my opinion. So yeah, especially but when a country runs a budget, a balanced budget, that's better. So it's very hard. I remember Germany before the crisis last year, they were running actually a small surplus of 1%, and their GDP was around 1.8 or 2%.
Yeah.
And the US GDP was like 3 or 4. And people said, well, look, the US is growing a lot more than Germany, but the deficit in the US was 5%. So actually, if the growth in Germany was actually organic private sector growth. So yeah, they do count government expenditure in the GDP, and I think that's that's the way they keep this system going because by borrowing so much and going into debt, the government it keeps the general public in the dark. They think that the economy is doing well because they publish these GDP numbers and they're positive. And even though don't look at the deficit here, and they don't explain people like we do how it's calculated.
Right. And then of course it's always adjusted in the months ahead. So they always go back and look and say, yeah, we adjust that just a little bit. Sheepdog Network. It says a lot of people are talking about the new system. What do you believe the new system will be? CBDC, and what will happen to crypto, the stock market, etc. Will it all be digitally controlled, backed by CBDC or crypto? Wow, that's a lot right there. Share your thoughts, and I'll share mine.
Yeah, I don't think they wish they'll be able to implement a new system, the powers that be. And I personally don't think they will succeed.
Yeah.
And a CBDC, I don't think it will succeed either.
Yeah.
And because unless they back it with real money, i.e., gold and silver, it will never succeed. And I don't think they want to do that because they'd lose control. As for crypto, I don't think cryptos are that. I mean, I see a lot of central banks and sovereign countries buying gold and not crypto. The only country that has some involvement in crypto is El Salvador, but El Salvador is like a tiny little country. To be honest, it's not very relevant in the scheme of things. So, what are your thoughts, Mike?
I think everything is subject to them being able to continue these phases that they've thrown out. So this is, mind you, if you look at the way I I think if you look at the way they try to see this as a long-term game, I think it's a 10-year time frame of them trying to execute, their plan step by step, year by year, variant by variant. And so I think by them shutting down economies, putting restrictions that are, of course, unlawful, mandating things here, eliminating small businesses, eliminating all types of privacy rights and whatever, property rights eventually, they're going to attempt to create so much desperation where if they succeed at that, before the people themselves are able to wake up and be aware and start pulling back their rights and pulling back their funds from the system, they stand the chance of being able to, and if they lose control of this narrative, they'll shut the bank runs, they'll pull the plug to the system, creating an instant basically fear tactic that would force the people to want some type of solution. And then they'll say, hey, we got the solution, CBDC. So if they get enough desperation in the system, I think people will be willing to take whatever is thrown out there, because most people don't know anything about money, so they don't really care about if it's backed by anything. As long as it spends, as long as it puts some bread on their table when they need it most, they'll accept it. And I think that's where they want this to go. So down the line sometime, if they succeed, CBDCs will be lawful, legal tender to be rolled out. Cryptos will flow along with it until they're really exposed for what it was meant to be, which was just a distraction to get us into the CBDC realm. And then, markets, everything, property rights are taken from us, and yada, 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 if they succeed. Hoping they don't.
I think what I think could scupper their plans is that in the next year or two, inflation gets out of hand. And I think they think that, look at Powell. He used to think it was transitory.
Yeah.
But now it's getting out of hand. And I don't think they'll be able to do enough. And that's what will scupper it, the inflation, and people are going to lose confidence in these people. That's what I hope. That would be the best scenario for us
I agree.
in the long term.
I do agree, but also remind people that this has always been a long-term, so-called well thought out process. And so I always refer back to this cover here, because as of January 9th of this upcoming year, it'll make 34 years since we were told of what we could expect, and it has to do with the new world currency. So they knew at this point the system would start to have issues, and they would need to come in with a solution. And to me, that's why I always suggested that it's just interesting how Bitcoin happened to pop up on the scene 11 years ago. At the same time, you got economists and some politicians now saying that we need to implement Bitcoin into our system, and of course countries adopting as well. So it's not by coincidence. It's a part of a greater plan. And fiat currencies technically are burning now because of course Zimbabwe, Venezuela, even Turkey a little bit, and all the other, Nigeria, all these fiat currencies are burning right now because of inflation. And we're here right where they told us we would be. So that's why I'm thinking, like, I'm optimistic in the fact that people can wake up, but based upon that this is a 30, 40, 50-year plan. And on top of that, a lot of stuff is biblical in nature. So a lot of these things have to occur to get us towards the ending of, from a biblical perspective. But so that's just my 2 cents on this whole situation, man. But we were told we would be here around this time frame. So no one should be surprised, I don't think. But Sheepdog says the injections is linked to something digital. I believe CBDC will be part of the injection passports. Without you, can't buy or sell, period. I see it clearly. Sheepdog, I see it, and I agree as well. And I think that's a part of the plan. That's why I say it's a 10-year game that they want to actually pull off on humanity. And, I'm rambling too much, but speaking of patents and technology, cryptocurrency and all that stuff like that is disruptive. It's very intuitive in nature. Okay, sure, it's a great technology. But what really has me the most concerned is the technology that not many people talk about, and it has to do with the mRNA technology and all that nanoparticle, nanobot, nano stuff that nobody talks about, but people are willingly injecting that into their body, which, in my opinion, it changes the whole human process. And that's more scary to me than anything in the financial realm at this point, because people are willingly basically participating in something disguised as a health measure. So I do agree with you, Sheepdog, but that's not something that people it doesn't excite people.
The worrying thing about these passports, or even apps, if you want to call them, is that they could make it dependent that you have to have the procedures in order to be able to spend your funds.
Right.
And I think that is worrying. I don't mind having an app that I can spend my money on, but if they can like turn it off because I haven't had my 25th booster, then I have a problem with it.
Right. And that's the thing, but because everything is so it's most people's attention are only focused on their current situations in their own environment, and the news will not tell you what's happening in Europe. And so there's more than enough videos floating out there as to how in France you can't go sit down in a restaurant and people are actually coming and checking and scanning your QR code in real time. And that's several countries in Europe to where
Well, in
it's already out
Switzerland
there.
too. In Switzerland too now, my sister, she and my brother-in-law, they own a hotel and they have a restaurant which is always busy. And now you need to have the vaccine, the COVID pass to eat in. You can eat outside, but in the winter, so you can't. So am I ever gonna go back there to eat at that restaurant? Probably not, unless things change drastically
Right.
for the
And that's the
better.
thing. And that's the thing. Like it will not change unless people stand up. And especially business owners, it's going to cripple businesses because it's going to be a long time process before people adjust to it and actually participate willingly. So businesses are going to close, and that's a part of their plan because that's something that they want to create that sense of desperation amongst the populace so that they can further the CBDC push and the dependency on the system itself is what they're trying to get us to. So, and it's just a matter of people standing up, resisting, man, and pushing back, saying enough's enough. Because in certain pockets throughout the world where there's been people pushing back, standing up. I even saw a video of people deciding to stand up outside of a restaurant, not allowing the law enforcement.
That was in Australia, wasn't it?
I think so. And so
Yeah.
they stood their ground, wouldn't let the law enforcement into the building, and they let other people eat and have fun because they stood their ground together. So unless more stuff like that happens, people gonna roll over, man.
In Switzerland now, they had a referendum a couple of weeks ago on whether to adopt the passports, and they voted 59% to do so. And I was told that a lot of people were surprised because they didn't think it was. But if you remember when this variant came out, this new Omicron, it was just on that weekend when the Swiss were going to vote. You kind of wonder if they. That was one of the reasons why they brought this up to stop the Swiss voting against it. And I know Switzerland is a small country, but it would be significant. People could say, look, a country where you have direct democracy decided they didn't want this, but they decided they did. And it's unfortunate.
Very true. Here's a question, looks like, from Timo. It says, Epic Times reported of the 54 countries in Africa, 45 are a part of the Belt and Road Initiative with China. China is reshaping the financial narrative, promoting the use of the ECNY. Any thoughts? It doesn't surprise me one bit.
No. And I think the ECNY will be gold-backed. And I think it's one of the reasons why a lot of countries, even Brazil, I know Brazil is not in Africa, but they increased their reserves by 62% this year. You've got Serbia bringing back its gold to Serbia. Serbia is like the gateway to Europe for the One Belt, One Road. The Chinese are quite highly involved in the Balkans as well. So it's possible. And I actually think it would be a good thing for Africa. I'm not saying the Chinese are perfect, but I don't think they're there to do business. They're not there to wage war and bring democracy to them.
Right. But watch this. But the bad part is they're there, and I even saw, I think it was in somewhere in the bottom parts of Africa, because they basically extended loans to all these impoverished nations, knowing they couldn't be repaid. So now they're taking land. So the international airport in some country in the south, they already.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
So to me, they're furthering their communistic spread throughout the world.
Yeah,
ultimately enslaving that continent itself.
Yeah, the U.S. did that. If you read John Perkins, the economic hitman. That's what the U.S. with the IMF and World Bank used to do. They used to make these huge loans to the to Latin American countries, and then these loans would fail, and they would take over all the infrastructure and land as well. So the Chinese are playing the same game.
Right.
We'll have to see if, it's unfortunate. Hopefully, it will be better with the Chinese. Not that I like the Chinese, but maybe they have learned from what the Western world has done.
Yeah.
And they say we need to be a bit fairer to these people. Maybe, who knows?
Yeah, we'll see. But yet they're still as of now. And so my question would be: you really think that they're going to go gold back as far as the ECNY in the near future, and on the international stage deal with governments and go?
Yeah, I think for trade, you see the ECNY, I think, will be used only in China. I think if they're doing trade bilaterally with African countries and Asian countries, they will settle the trade in their own currencies. Like if China trades with Tanzania, and Tanzania has a surplus, China will pay them with their EC, with their yuan. And why do you need gold? Well, because countries need to trust each other that the currency that they're accepting is worth something, so they have to have gold. In the past, it's been the US dollar. People have trusted the US dollar. Well, it used to be as good as gold up until 1971. They were saying that the dollar was as good as gold.
Yeah.
But it hasn't been as good as gold. So I think the ECNY will be used in China. And I don't think it will be used for trade. For trade, it will be different. They'll probably settle it in gold or their own currencies.
Yeah, and at that point, I think the EUSD will be fully rolled out after the official cyber event occurs summertime of next year, creating that sense of desperation, where the solution will be, oh yeah, we can have instant payments in your wallet, like emergency meeting the Federal Reserve. We need to have emergency stimulus in people's pockets because the banking sector was attacked by Russia, and we're going to war. All that crap.
Yeah, here they're calling it Britcoin, BRIT. It sounds a little bit like.
So I for some reason that's their initial announcement, but I think it's gonna end up being the E-Pound or the E-Sterling or something like that.
Or the Brit, or Britcoin. It could be Britcoin.
Oh man! All right, so we're about the hour point, man. Let's get ready to dial back. As always, it's fun to connect. Didn't have as many people willing to show their handsome or pretty faces this afternoon, but it is what it is. A lot of people aren't built for the camera. But Mario, man, tomorrow is Christmas, man, and I want you to enjoy your celebration, and have a great weekend. Of course, next week will be our last live stream Friday of the year. Then we can get into more of 2022 projections and things like that. But anyway, anyone leave us with any words of wisdom or anything like that?
Again, stop watching TV. Look after your health. I mean, I'm not saying I never have junk food, but I try to avoid it as much as possible. Appreciate what you've got as well.
100%.
Be thankful, and that's what I've got to say. And I wish you also a Merry Christmas and a celebration tomorrow, Mike, and everyone watching.
For real.
And
same here. Yeah, same here on my end. Enjoy tomorrow. Remember, the reason for the season is Christmas. Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. It's all about, the Savior of humanity. And I think more now than ever, people will be needing hope and expectation of some type of revival in our nation. And I think it starts with, of course, your spiritual walk with your Creator. So get plugged into who that person is or entity is, whatever you may call it. But to me, it's quite simple. But anyway, that's all she wrote. Be blessed, be safe. Merry Christmas. And we'll see you guys next week. Peace.